And welcome to another one of my videos. And in today's video, it's part of the quasi mini series that I mentioned when I did the video Zimbabwean dollar meltdown. So in this quasi mini series, I'm going to be talking about money supply and its effect on, well, gold and the economy. Now, today's episode is going to be titled Money Supply and Gold. But before I really get into it, I kind of really need to explain what money supply is. So I'm using a website called Trading Economics. What they do is they compile an aggregate of data, they put it together, and they put it in graph format. So as you can see from this website, I'm on indicators, by the way. You can type in the country. So in my case, because I'm from England, the United Kingdom, it will do this all the United States, Euro area, China. It's got pretty much every country on there. All it does is compile data from each country. It will then go down different things, or different statistics, sorry, that the country will do, and you can compare and contrast different countries on this. Now, for me, because I am talking about money supply, I need to go to money, and I need to go to this. So before I get into it, money supply is broken down differently for different countries. So, for example, the UK is different from the United States, and the United States is different from Australia, and so on and so forth. But I'll try to give you a brief overview of what it is. Now, let's look at money supply zero. So I'll explain what that is. So M0, or money supply M0, is just the bank notes and coins that are in circulation. Now, let's have a look at the chart. You can see from as far back as it goes on Trading Economics that it's pretty much gone from 20,000 million to 80,000 million. I will point something out in a bit concerning a film I watched called 3% Owned, but I will explain it later on. Now, there's M0, M1, M2, M3, and M4. The UK tends to use M0 and M3, however, this website has broken it down further into M1, M2. It doesn't have M4, but I will explain what that is. So let's look at M1. Let's break it down even further. Chart, column. M1 is M0 plus checking accounts plus travelers checks. So M0 and M1 is typically described as narrow money. So this is essentially money that you can get your hands on without any friction. There's no issue. You can just change it up for notes. Now you can see that instead of 80,000 million, it's close to 200,000 million. Is that right? I don't think it is. 2 billion. It gets kind of complex in my head when thinking about it. I probably should have rehearsed it better. So that's M0 and M1. M0 is not really that important if you're just going to include narrow money. You might as well just look at M1. And the same goes for M2 and M3. I will explain in a second. Now, if we do look at M2, again, let's go to max. Let's go to the column. I like this because it kind of, I think it shows it better. Now, M2 is everything in M1 plus savings deposits plus money market funds, such as ETFs plus certificates of deposit and other time deposits. So for those of you that don't know what a time deposit is, have any of you ever had an ISA? So for those of you in the States, an ISA is an individual savings account. It's set up by the government and you get tax benefits from it. So for example, you can have a stocks or share ISA, or you can have a bank ISA, and whatever money you make from it, it will not be taxed in the future as long as current regulation stays the same. Now, this is M2 and M3, like I said, is termed as broad money. You can see that the money supply is getting wider the more you add in different types of money into this system. It's just ways that economists can work out how much money there is in the system and if it's going up or down. It's like a living, breathing system. Sometimes it gets bigger and sometimes it gets smaller, but the trend, as you can see, is predominantly on the way up in an upward down motion. Where have I said that before? For those of you who've been watching my videos, I say that all the time about gold. I say it all the time about stocks as well. And there is a reason for it. Now let's go to M3. Let's go to max. Let's go to column again. Again, can you see it's swelling even more? It's swelling because it's a combination of M0, M1, M2. Or you could just argue it's M2 plus the extras in M3, which are repurchase agreements, money market funds, and debt securities up to 2 years. It's getting even bigger. It's just expanding even more. Now, they don't have M4 on this. M4 is not used by every country, but M4 typically consists of private sector related banking, private sector retail banking and building society deposits, private sector wholesale banks and building society deposits, and certificates of deposits. It's not so important for the purpose of this video, but I thought I would share it anyway. But one thing I find interesting is if you look at, I actually did the math, so you're going to have to take my word for it. In the video 3% owned, essentially the argument was that 3% of the money in existence, in physical existence, is M0. Everything else is M3. Now I did the math and it worked out that it's now 2.6%. So it's gotten even smaller, which would suggest that the money supply has expanded even further since that video came out. I'm not entirely sure when that video came out. I think it was 2012, 2013. Don't quote me on it. It is a fantastic video. It's slightly left-leaning. However, if you can watch it with an unbiased mind, I would definitely recommend it for those of you who are interested in how the financial system works. Now, I said to you that I'm going to be talking about money supply and gold. Here's the thing I found interesting. I didn't actually know this until I put it together. So you can see from the graph from 1992, essentially 500,000 million in existence in terms of the full money supply that is with the Bank of England. This is not including private debt, by the way. So take that into account. 500,000 million. If you go to today, 3 million. That's a 6-fold increase. Now let's look at something that I found incredibly interesting. This is very simplistic, but let's have a look. So 1992, let's say, for example, it's had different boundaries in 1992, but let's say, for example, it's 200, just for argument's sake. Now let's times that by the money supply, which is a 6-fold increase. You're looking at 1,200. Where did it go to recently before the increased amount of quantitative easing? 1,200. Is that by design, or is that just a coincidence? I think it's a bit of both. Let's have a quick look if we go back. So the money supply started really increasing in 2000, the gold price, started increasing in 2008. It's creeping. It is creeping. Can you argue that it should have gone up double in 2008? It's essentially double. Let's look at the money supply. 2008. There's no reason to believe that. And I don't think it's as simplistic as pointing out the money supply versus the gold price, because there are other factors at play, including human psychology and where prices go. Also, the gold price has many different things attached to it, which I will make another video about. For example, you've got many facets of the market, including physical coin, derivatives. There's many things. I will go into further detail in another video. But I think it's interesting. The money supply has done nothing but increase, and it's going to keep increasing. If you look at the forecast, I think it will go up quicker. Boris Johnson has just announced that he is doing another deal similar to the New Deal in the States from the Great Depression, or akin to it. I think debt is a great thing if you can do what Ray Dalio calls a perfect deleveraging. I don't think it's going to be that. A perfect deleverage is where you borrow money to increase your GDP and then you pay the money back, which leads to increased prosperity. I don't think we're anywhere near that. I think we have got ourselves into a bit of a hole, and it's not just the UK. I think it's the US as well. I think it's any Western economy. I think it's any economy that has embarked on a series of quantitative easing. I think they've let the toothpaste out the tube and they can't put it back in. I think there's going to be inflation and lots of it, which poses the question, where's that inflation going to go? Now, typically, it's the working class that suffer from inflation. It's the middle class that gets squeezed, and it's the wealthy that get richer. We've all heard the saying, the rich get richer. And that's not because they earn more money, it's because their assets go up. I think that's what's going to happen when you increase the money supply. I don't think it's only going to go into gold. I think it will go into all assets such as property, such as land, such as companies. We've seen that with the stock market. I think they're all going to have a go. I do think there is going to be a stock market crash at some point, but that's going to be based around herd mentality. In my mind, doesn't mean I'm right. So yeah, tell me what you think. Do you think it's just a mere coincidence that gold has gone up the way it's gone up, or do you think there is a connection with the money supply? Let me know what you think. Take care, guys.